Hi there, this is Jeanette Comerford from the Happy Thoughts and Ink Spots blog, and today I'm sharing one of the cards I made, which was part of a mini Halloween card series. These feature small cards with a lot of the new stamps from Mama Elephant and Lawn Fawn. This one features a cute little vampire. The first thing I did was cut a card base out of black cardstock, and it measures 4 by 4. And then I cut a piece of pattern paper that measured 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. And now I'm just going to adhere that down to the base using some adhesive. Here's some of the images I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using the gravestone. I'm going to be using Mama Elephant's cityscape as well as their landscape dies. The vampire from Mama Elephant's Bootastic set, as well as the little bat. And I had thought at first that I was going to be putting the little cat on my card, but in the end I decided not to. These were cut using the Landscape Trio, and I sponged peel paint on top of them. And I'm going to now adhere them down with some foam adhesive. This gives a lot of dimension to your card, a lot of interest to your card. And so it's something that I've been doing a lot in conjunction with these landscape dies. So I'm just going to try to make sure that I'm adding this first layer down in the right place. And you're going to see later on that I actually didn't, so I had to pull it off and redo it. On the second piece, I am adding 2 layers of foam adhesive. So this layer, the bottom layer, will actually sit up higher than the layer I just put down. And this is like a fun little trick to making your card more interesting. I really like the foam adhesive. You can cut it to size. It's really fun stuff. So now you're going to see I'm going to add this down, and I'm going to discover that my top piece is too high, so I'm pulling it off. And I was really lucky that I didn't tear too much of my pattern paper. Sometimes you kind of wreck your card when you do this, so I decided instead I would put the first layer, the bottom layer, down first and tuck that in, and I ended up cutting a little bit off the bottom just so that it would sit exactly where I wanted it to be. Now I've taken the cityscapes that I die cut out of black cardstock, and I'm just trimming it a little bit so it fits nicely on my card. And I'm just going to put some adhesive on the bottom and then liquid adhesive along the top. Now I chose the orange background for this card just because I thought it'd be really cool to see the orange peeking through all those little holes in the city. And I've just added my block to the card, and it's heavy enough that it's going to keep the cityscape die cut pressed to the paper so that the adhesive can dry. Now I'm just going ahead and adding little pieces of foam adhesive to all the little components that I'm going to be placing on my card. And sometimes I trim it a little bit. I make sure that none of it is showing at the side. It sort of takes away from the look. Okay, so now I'm going to be taking that moon and placing it, positioning it where I want it. And now I'm taking my little embossing tool, which is like an anti-static tool, and I brushed it over the paper, and now I'm using Versamark ink with the little bat stamp and stamping the bats exactly where I want them to be. Now in hindsight, it probably would have been better to have done this step before putting the moon and the cityscape down, because you're going to see in a little while I ended up getting a little bit of that embossing powder on my moon. But I guess if you're a little more careful than I was, and for sure I'll be more careful next time, it won't be a problem. So I'm just sort of hitting that card at the back to make sure that all the stray embossing powder is off. And I'll be taking my heating tool and heating up that embossing powder. And you can see it really makes little bats pop off the paper. It's a really cool look. So now I'm going to be adding all my little components. It's fun that you've got the two levels of grass there, so that the little gravestones are at different levels on the card. It's a really fun look. The last little piece is the vampire himself. I'm going to get him positioned. And I'm going to add just another layer of foam adhesive behind his head to bring it at the correct level so that I can press it down and his head will stay down. Next thing I'm doing is I'm taking my Wink of Stella Zig pen in black and just blackening up his eyes and a few other places. I had stamped him in Memento ink because I was going to be coloring him with Copics, and that's the best ink for Copics. But I find it doesn't give you the darkest sort of or most even coverage, like for his pants and for his feet. So I'm just going over some of those areas with either the Zig pen in black, or here I have the Wink of Stella brush pen in clear. Now I'm taking some stickles in, I think it's Stardust, and I am adding them to the moon, and that just covered up any of that stray embossing powder. So I hope you enjoyed my card. Here's the supplies, and thanks for watching.